Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Jack from the Zeal Brothers. I want to do a short video today about something that I keep hearing brought up in this generation. We live in a touchy-feely type generation that uses a lot of words like toxic and energy and trauma. Trauma, the latter one, is the one I want to talk about. A lot of people will use trauma as excuse to be a straight-up jerk, not realizing that everyone, I got something in my beard, not realizing that everyone has some form of trauma in their life. One day I'm going to do a video on things that have happened to me that were traumatic. Things that I can't really talk about now, but a lot of things that I've seen and stuff that's happened that for the average person, it would have a real lasting negative effect. And it's had an effect on me and how to get through all that. But today I want to focus on not using your traumas of things that have happened to you in the past as excuse to be an absolute jerk. In this generation, we see that happen a lot. People will do something totally horrible to somebody else and they'll say, "I'm sorry." And then they'll go on an hour diatribe about how their trauma from their past made them do it. That's not an excuse, because everything that happens to you in your life is your responsibility to get over. It's no one else's fault. Now, you can say things that happened to you were not your fault as well, and you would probably be right in that. There's some things that are our fault. But then there's some things that happened while you were a small child or whatever that were not your fault, but they're still your responsibility because it's your life and it's nobody else's job to fix your life. Now, that may sound harsh, but it's the absolute truth that you have to come to realize if you're going to be a better person, if you're going to be a godly person, if you're going to live a righteous life, if you're going to seek to be more like Jesus Christ. You cannot always put that responsibility on someone else. I will see a certain, for example, something will happen to somebody, or somebody will do something. They will snap on somebody out of anger and just have a very wrathful response. And then when they're challenged on that, they should say, "You should have known that I had something traumatic happen like me and it triggered me." That's another word we're going to talk about, triggering. It triggered me to act that way. That's not an excuse to act bad. That's not an excuse to take out your anger on other people. That's not an excuse for bad behavior. It's not an excuse for sin. Let's call it what it is. When you have something traumatic happen to you in the past, even though it may have been a cause and effect type thing, you may not have caused it, but the effects are real, and it's your job to deal with it. Nobody else's job. It's nobody else's. It's nobody else's. What's the word? No, it's no one else's. I can't think of the word right now. Responsibility. It's no one else's responsibility to deal with your trauma. So when people say that, they need to know that their trauma is their own responsibility. How do you get over it? First, you acknowledge it. You acknowledge it, and then you admit when whatever triggers you, whenever it goes off, you have to admit, I allowed things in the past to affect me in a negative way, and I never dealt with it the right way. And therefore, I allowed it to cause me to sin. I chose to do that action. I chose to act that way. I chose because it was the easy way out. It's hard to deal with it, and I ignored dealing with it for so long that I chose to act that way. You're not using it as an excuse to say, "Well, you should have known," and these type of things, and I was so triggered that I couldn't control myself. You can always control yourself. You can always go back and say, "What could I have done better?" And too many people in this generation, they don't have that mentality. They always have a mentality of they're sitting back and being the victim. Things have happened to me in my past, and that's why I act this way. How about you deal with the things that happened to you in your past so you don't have to act that way anymore? It's maybe difficult, but it's not impossible. So people always say, "Well, that's hard." Yeah, it's hard. Everybody that you ever meet in your life has things in their life that have been hard for them to overcome. That's part of life. And if you don't deal with them, it's nobody else's responsibility to deal with them for you.